some reason, it is impossible to seemingly for them to admit that.
Unless I've jumped the gun.
Hello, everyone. Michael's definitely way too early with that one. As professional as always, absolutely. Hello, everyone.
So yes, we're here. Pepsi in hand.
Yep, I don't have a Pepsi, but I do have Final Fantasy Tactics, so there's that. I was going to use this as like a prop later on to explain something.
This, fucker.
I just no, because this is not a like new copy, so it is likely to fall apart if I lift it up. So
yeah.
That's what happens when you buy things for props and don't care about the cost.
What are they called? Jewel something?
Jewel cases?
Yes, jewel cases. Those those motherfuckers break to pieces. Oh, right. Speaking of breaking to pieces, no. Yeah, we got plenty of Blizzard news to talk about today.
We do.
A lot of Blizzard news. Cat. It's cat time. Blizzard have made so much fucking money. I don't know if we can do it live because the stuff that scrapes all this shit probably hasn't got it yet. But you know the way there's some websites that scrape the Armory API because I think you get an achievement whenever you get them or whatever it is. I don't know. Basically, they can look at people's collections and they can work out what percentage of like their sample size or whatever have actually got them out.
Yes.
So, yeah, we could like totally do that and see how many people have got the cat bound. I have a feeling this is going to be one of their fastest selling store mounts because cat people.
Yeah, it's a cat. It's gorgeous too.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, there's so little to say. It's a thing where it is a nice mount. But obviously it's a store mount, so all of the same problems apply where why is it a store mount if it's one of the nicer mounts you've made? Obviously. The answer is obvious.
Boy, howdy. Those are some big deduction skills. I suppose we should just jump right into it, actually, and let's talk about this mount, because we actually 100% even know where the next expansion is going to be because of this.
100%, yes, definitely, 100%.
As the Whisper said, beware the eyes of green. No, not really, but maybe, actually. So, to talk about this pretty nice cat, there's interesting sort of dimensions to this, everyone. It's not the 6-month sub. It's basically between 6-month subs or like in the middle of them or whatever. So that's one thing of note. That means they're sending this out fully just being like, okay, well, you're either going to need... How many WoW tokens is that? A good few 100,000 gold anyway. So you're either going to need that or you're just going to need to cough up and pay money. All right? So that means that you've got to think, well, why is this one specifically a $25 only store mount? Instead of being there as a part of the regular subscription. And I think what we can then work out there, the subscription has all of its World of Warcraft awards that we already know about, like the Sapphire Flappy Flyboy. It's got all of its Hearthstone rewards, which, of course, as you very well pointed out, are being perfectly doled out across the different months of the quarter. So they probably think, like, okay, well, there'll be diminishing returns if we put anything more in this.
Yeah.
And then I think they know that this mount is so hyper-targeted to a specific interest niche, demographic, whatever, that people are just going to fucking lap it up. I mean, the second, I know this is anecdotal, but, the second I refresh Twitter, just everyone just posting, we have the cat, I have the cat, oh my god, look at my character and the cat. It was just walls and walls of cat. Which, I mean, of course it is. It's a fucking cat. People are going to buy this shit. It's a brilliant mount. I mean, I don't support the store or any, this shit should be, earnable in game in a way that doesn't involve WoW token, but, it's a perfectly executed mount. So no wonder it's going to sell incredibly. And also make it feel a little bit not as good whenever the in-game mounts. There's a lot of recolors. There's not as many unique rigs, not as many unique animations. There are some that are very nice, but, if it's on the store, it will always be of the big super premium quality.
Which is, it comes down to the same thing every time, where it's if you're a customer who's happy to pay more, you will get the better thing. And obviously that's like, that's fair, generally speaking. Obviously, pay more money, get a nicer thing is how it works. But that only really works for players if it's a nicer thing, as opposed to, the only nice thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky. So then the other thing is read the room, guys. Read the room. Please read the room.
That's why the title of the stream is What a Time for a Store Mount. It is so clearly just, we do not give it, like, whoever made this decision does not give a shit about what we're saying, doesn't give a shit about what any of you in chat are saying, doesn't give a shit about what anyone on Twitter in this kind of relative sphere is saying. They're just going, well, the people who still like our game will give us money. They're the people we're going to target with this. Fuck everybody else, I guess.
Yeah, basically it's just sacrificing short-term and long-term optics for playing to the in-group, who are going to be there no matter what, to make a whole bunch of money. Which, if you think about World of Warcraft, especially in Q4, what big releases does Blizzard have in Q4? They're big. Like, there's Hearthstone got its stuff. Diablo 2 Resurrected, of course, has its stuff. But, World of Warcraft is very sleepy. It's very, very sleepy in this quarter, isn't it? So they are absolutely going to want to get as much as they can. So remember, all those Hearthstone MAUs, who are, all those Hearthstone people, like we talked about this earlier, like weeks ago, but like if you're a regular Hearthstone player and the things given to you by the 6-month WoW sub are things you'd actually use in Hearthstone, like you'd be stupid not to get the World of Warcraft subscription to get those Hearthstone rewards because it's cheaper than just buying them in Hearthstone. So that means that all those Hearthstone people, we're certainly going to be able to be counted as WoW MAUs should they log in. And of course, they'll be WoW subscribers for 6 months, which certainly looks quite good for Blizzard's metrics. You've got that going on. As you pointed out, you log in to get the one reward, and then the next month you log in to get the other one. Then there's the cat. Or not the cat, sorry. The other... Man, there's store mounts going everywhere, because this is a cat. Was it not a mouse that came from Hearthstone very, very recently? So there was the the tutorial for mercenaries. You get the mouse mount. So that's everybody going over to Hearthstone to sort of juice up its MAUs. Of course, you've got Season of Mastery, which, is an interesting thing. I can't say it massively appeals to me because it feels like it's almost taking the sort of, a long Diablo seasonal model and applying it to an MMO. But for me, like, MMO means, hello, watch. MMO means, like, investment into a character, really, for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's like I said about Season of Mastery. Season of Mastery, I think, is their experiment going, we'll go for the private server players who like that repetition, who like that. We'll almost speedrun Classic in a way. But obviously there's a couple changes that'll make it more interesting than just whatever. Totally. But it is that idea as opposed to what MMO Classic was to people.
Yes, yeah. So you've got Q2 being bolstered up by Classic TBC. Q4 being bolstered up by Season of Mastery. There's the bit where I just start to wonder, like, holy shit, how many Classic products are we going to have? Because if they're doing Season of Mastery, like, it's just going to be WoW Classic Season of, and then it could be something in the Burning Crusade, it could be something in Classic, it could be something in Wrath. So maybe they will always have, like, one funky seasonal version, then the legacy versions to log into, and then the most recent Classic product. But man, it's going to be hard for them to actually manage that slate of products before you click on the WoW button and just like boom. Here's 50 different ways to play World of Warcraft. So I wonder what their plan is there. But for this mount, look, it is what it is. It's a store mount. We all know what the crack is there. If it is the case that this is a mount that would make sense within the next expansion, where, it's like the Dracorium, this is the one that I always bring up. The Fey Dragon was sold to us in Mists of Pandaria during a content drought to help juice Blizzard's numbers. You then go into Shadow Moon Valley in Warlords of Draenor. You find that where we should have had our Order of the Cloud Serpent-like reputation that earned us a new mount and would have given us a reason to play the game for 2 or 3 weeks, instead, there was basically no content there. There was not a reputation there like we would have expected from past expansions, and it instead was a store mount. And this is generally what I see when we look at these store mounts, and that's why I think, frankly, I understand all the people who are like, it's just, it's a WoW token, you buy it with gold. But I'm thinking, like, guys, okay, you're thinking very first order here. You're thinking very surface level. Let's turn that brain from a chicken fillet into a nice wrinkly thinker, because those mounts would usually be the big reward for content. That's why I always bring up the Fey Dragon, because with the Fey Dragon, we evidently lost content in the new expansion. Warlords of Draenor was one that suffered from a lack of content. And you can see this track through multiple store mounts that they've done, which otherwise could have had multiple different colors, being a great prestige reward for, completing a rep that would have had a story and a bunch of content, like what they've done in the past. So I understand that people are like, oh, it's just a money thing. It's like, yeah. But it's just a money thing now that actually would have been in-game content and a reason to pay your subscription in the past that would have made more user satisfaction. And that's always what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, I would love to know how that decision was made back in the day, because was it the idea of they were in the production room and they went, hey, so we've got these Fey Dragons, like the Order of the Cloud Serpent, we'd like to make this content, we'd like to make a little rep bar for people to fill up and do some nice content with these people. And then the production side went, that's not going to fit in the schedule, because obviously, Warlords of Draenor was kind of scuffed in schedule in a whole bunch of ways. But I wonder if it was that case of, hey, no, we don't have time to make content. What do we do with this mount? Or what do we do with this model? Or if it was the other way around, which was, money's not looking so good. We need to get a model out. We need to get a store mount out, see how it goes, make a load of money, juice up the numbers. And then later on, they looked at the content and went, well, we don't have a mount to give them anymore, so if we have no reward, we can't give them content. Oh. Like the mid-star.
Oh, yeah. When have they thought that before?
Yep.
Again, you who would defend the store mount against what we're saying, Ian Hazacostas, game director, framed the Mage Tower's existence as a reason to give a reward. Mm-hmm. So if the rewards go, skittled off to the store, then maybe reasons for a good old bit of content go away. As per how the game director has explained their thinking about putting things in the game very recently in the year 2020 and 1.
I mean, they're literally speaking, there is a parallel universe where they earlier on managed to get weapon cosmetics on the store, and then we got the weapon cosmetics for those unique artifact skins on the store, and then didn't get a mage star. Based on that philosophy, that is actually a completely reasonable sort of alternate future, because it didn't happen, but it could have based on how they make decisions, which is why it's why that whole debate is we can see all, if you look at it from the perspective of, cosmetics become content if they don't have a place, then you look at the store and all you see is content we never got.
Yeah, I would say to people, think about this as an architect. Think about this from a top-down view. Really try to think in those larger terms about what things could actually be, instead of thinking just as a player, just as a consumer, because that is the mindset that can be a little bit exploited. And as Neil's actually there says in chat, the Grinning Reaver probably could have been the same for the Horde as well. So that's just stuff that, we always want to bring this up because people should know. Now, the other thing here is, actually, there's one reason to. It's taking candy from a fucking baby. And that's not to be super derogatory about, how people spend their own money. Let's be real. You're Blizzard Entertainment. You just make this mount exist out of, some modeler hours, some rigger hours, some animator hours, they get the texture, blah, blah, blah. You make this thing exist. And now you've got two different choices. You can build a whole bunch of content around that. It's going to require your narrative designers to make it narrative, your quest designers to make quests. You have to spend all that fucking time to make some content that'll keep people subbed in the game. You might think to yourself, well, they're just going to be running Mythic Plus anyway, so they'll be subscribed. It'll be fine. They'll just do all transmog rugs anyway. It'll be fine. They'll be subbed. And so instead of spending all of that extra time and effort to give it away to people for free, even though they're a paying subscriber, you just put it in the store. And it's pure profit. I'm sure there's a few percentage, payment processing fee, a tiny amount of customer service, things like that. But, let's just say you sell... I don't even know what a number is. If you're to lowball and say you sold 200,000 of these, 200,000 times $25, that's a lot of revenue.
Yep.
That's a lot of revenue for a fucking FBX. I don't know what file format it is, but whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just sounds like I'm being reductive. It's it's selling it. Selling JPEGs, selling GIFs. But you know what I mean, right? Think about this from the biz perspective. if people are going to buy it, and their duty is to produce good numbers to report to the superiors, I mean, obviously they're going to do it. Obviously, that's just how it is. But it's one of those things where, you getting the thing that you want in that sort of direct way, you can see how it's fine for you, but it basically ends up being kind of harmful when you look at how that singular interaction plays into the complex system that is the business of the World of Warcraft. And that's why WoW can have, really so much less subscribers than it did in the past when it was at its peak. But, almost 100% sure right now it's making way more money than it did back then because of the deeper and more intelligently, done monetization.
Yeah. I mean, to go back to... this isn't really all that fair a comparison, but whenever we did the WoW economy video and we compared the dollar cost of raiding in terms of what you needed to buy for consumables, that obviously excludes what you're going to get from playing the game gold-wise, but it's the idea of it was I can't remember which one it was, but it was during one of the expansions. If you bought all of your consumables for raid with WoW token, you would actually end up paying more monthly for raid consumables than you were your actual sub. So that is like a possibility in the back of my mind. There's so much token monetization, so much store amount monetization that you lose maybe 60% of your subs, and it doesn't matter because the existing subs are paying for them and more. Yeah. That's kind of I guess that's the whole point of whales, like.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there we go. The business. Enjoy the business. We have done the business, Matt.
Love business.
Next, it's time to swap from business to... I was going to say to pleasure. No, it's time to swap from business to lore.
Absolutely.
Because... Where is this cat from? Where is this cat from, Matt? What does it mean? And is our next expansion World of Warcraft? Cat versus bird?
Yes. The next expansion is cat versus bird, because the Sapphire Sky Blazer was a bird, and now the Sunworn Feline is a cat.
Big.
And cats don't like birds. And there you go.
Yeah, done.
That's our analysis.
To be more serious about it, before you all run away and think that we're just having you on, they consistently have done this. So I was just thinking about the Rune Saber. No, never mind. The Fey Dragon that was sold to us in Mists of Pandaria. It came from the Dracorium in Warlords of Draenor. This has happened numerous times, in fact. Was it the Silvarian Dreamer? Silvarian Dreamer, which quite obviously comes from Ardenweald. Yes. Which that was during BFA, right?
Yeah,
so
it was.
Would have been cool to have earned that in game, wouldn't it? So it's this thing, right, where a whole bunch of the store mounts are literally just nabbed from places we have not been to yet. So it's really weird because you look at the marketing copy of them, and they're all talked about in terms of their background in such a bizarre, nondescript way. And then in 1 or 2 years' time, you look back at that and you're like, oh, well, I know where you came from.
Yeah, you're obviously.
I've been there. That's where my covenant is.
Yeah.
So when we look at these store mounts, there's talking about, the business side and the game content side, but there is also a little bit of lore analysis to be done with all of this. This is quite a fun thing. You had this thought. You went to r/Warcraft lore. Genova Healsbad also had this thought and this incredible theory that Anshe is actually Zoval.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. Cool. Me just going, okay, well, I've got these thoughts about what could this mean? Going to r/Warcraft lore, and Genova's just went and done all of the thinking that I was going to do that day. I was like, oh, sweet. Great. So
thinking accomplished.
It's fun that people are thinking, and that's what I used to like about Warcraft lore before it kind of got into this mire of dealing with current lore, where it was all just people being excited and a lot of people being on the same page, having, independently coming to the same conclusions, and then you're going, oh shit, that means we must be right. I think this is hopefully one of those cases. I really hope their post on Zoval being Anshe gets approved, but for now, this is the more important stuff for now.
So this mount is called the Sun-Warmed Feline. Let's take a look at the description. But its favorite places in all of Azeroth happen to be anywhere the sun shines through autumn leaves. The sun. Anshe. So, of course, you are a big lover of Anshe and Musha.
Absolutely.
Could you do us a quick explanation, very, very quick, of what that means?
So the only real explanation necessary is that Anshe is the sun and Musha is the moon in the mythos of the Tauren. So they have all this mythos back in the day of, you know, the eyes. I can't even remember specifics anymore because my brain's been so rotted. But all of the ideas of these mythical features being, you know, so tied to, you know, a different version, obviously very Native American inspired, but a same version of the Elune story, the Elune mythos that the Night Elves had, but using different terminology and different names and having different little takes. So it felt like all of this unified mythos that could be real. It's just everyone had different names for it.
Yeah.
So the idea that you've got Anshe after we see for the first time who Elune actually is, and now we're hearing this specific thing about the sun, but it gets a little bit deeper when we go into what the Sapphire Skyblazer is as the other side of it.
That's what's fun. So to continue on, the presence of the giant felines heralds the beginning of the end for the birds of Azeroth. See, World of Warcraft, cats versus birds. But birds of Azeroth. So let's take a look at some of the other store mounts, including the very recent Sapphire Skyblazer. And if we go to its description, it's not quite certain why Sapphire Skyblazers flocked to Azeroth. They burn brighter and hotter than any avian to ever soar across the skies. And then this is where it turns into folk and fairy tales. In the embrace from folk and fairy tales, the blue child disappears, which infuriates Elune. Now, the blue child is actually is Allegan technology.
Yeah.
No. The blue child is like the other moon of Azeroth.
Yeah, the white lady and the blue child.
Yeah. So the blue child disappears. She abandons her protection of Azeroth, which leads to environmental catastrophes. She realizes this and returns, only to burn with rage that sets fires across Azeroth. Upon hearing a citizen's song about their dying son, she realizes what she's doing and calms down. So...
Yes.
So the working theory is the next expansion will have themes of Elune versus Anshe, moon versus sun, bird versus cat, light versus light. An epic tale of store mounts in strife.
Yep.
Put together very well by us by you/Genova Healsbad.
Yeah, it's the idea that, you know, all of this just sort of means Elune had this arc of leaving for a bit, Azeroth suffering without her protection, coming back and then going, fine, I'll fucking protect you, but then just silently seething and burning the place down, which fits so perfectly with the Skyblazer being, it's not certain why they flocked Azeroth, as in they came out of nowhere. Did they come with Elune in her second coming after that, and then just burned the hell out of the skies? So that obviously makes a load of sense there.
Yeah, there is this thing knocking around my head, though, that's just kind of like, okay, they're going to do full Elune Toronto lore with Anshe and stuff. They're also going to do Tyrallion, and they're also going to do Yrel, and they're just going to do it all at once. And I really hope they don't go over ambitious and shit the bed on it.
I hope not.
But again, you look at the store mounts, and so many of them do come from the next expansion. I really do.
Yeah, and if it's not obvious enough, I actually went and I'll dump it in here just where we are. So what I've just added to this doc here is an artist. This is from the Silverian Dreamer. An artist in the magical city of Dalaran fell asleep on her brush and dreamed of painting a beautiful feathered dragon. Her artwork leapt from the page, and when she awoke, she found it sleeping gently beside her. Which, you know, sleeping, artistry, Emerald Dream, you know, sleeping, dreams, Ardenweald. The link is very clearly there.
Yeah.
So if they're doing that again with either of these mounts, then there is a clear link that it's written in like the same language, the same tones, where they just don't want to tell us what it literally is, but we'll know what it is.
What about the Vulpine Familiar?
Oh, the Vulpine Familiar? I actually am not sure.
Let's just take a look
yeah,
at the Vulpine Familiar here. Fiercely intelligent and insatiably curious, the species of fox has traveled the great dark beyond to seek companionship with the greatest heroes of Azeroth. Born daredevils make a great... It is a lot more mysterious.
It is also generic. It's kind of hard to pick anything out of that, except for the great dark beyond.
which basically is saying that this comes in some sort of cosmic-y way, and there's one or two similarities there with some stuff from Ardenweald, given the Silvarian Dreamer.
Yeah.
It is very interesting. I wonder, I'm almost tempted to just like click the store mount button.
Buy them all.
And that's it. So we got that. We got the Sapphire Skyblazer, which obviously we went into the lore of. Now, Hogris, I mean, that's pretty obvious what that's for, right? That's like, that's Chinese New Year.
Yeah, same with Squeakers. Same with Squeakers, who was the rat.
There's the Silvarian Dreamer, which came out in BFA and is quite clearly Legion. Winged Guardian, pretty old. Celestial Steed, pretty old. Fey Dragon, came out in Mists of Pandaria. In reality was Warlords of Draenor. Heart of the Aspects, that came out in Cataclysm. Is a bit more themed around Cataclysm, but in fact was using, I think it was using the rig for the Cloud Serpents.
I believe so, yeah.
Lucky Young, I mean, that's pretty obvious. This was a collector's edition mount, as was this. Iron Sky Reaver, when did that come out again? I think that came out in... that one came out in MOP.
Because that's a WAD model, isn't it?
Yeah, no, did that come out in...
Well, it actually says Bred for War by
the
Iron Horde. So that was a little bit more obviously. So I'm not sure when it came out, but I'm sure you'll find
2014.
out. 2014.
16th of January.
So that was... Did we know about Warlords at the time?
We knew about Warlords as of the 2013 BlizzCon. So that one was actually just completely blatant.
Yeah, that was them going, here's the next expansion, get excited, please.
Yep. So, you look through these and you do just kind of think, like, there's a few that are like a bit more reasonable. Like, I mean, the Steam scale, like, that's obviously Mechagon stuff. Yeah. But you can see there for a number of them that they very obviously are coming from future expansions. And that's why, as people who care about the lore and care about where World of Warcraft is going, we do have to look at these store mounts and try to work out what's going on. So, it's interesting, like Anshe, Musha, the Ilun, the Blue Child and everything. Just working out what they actually are, because I think, we have more of a understanding of Musha than Anshe.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of looking into folk and fairy tale for other stories about that. There's a lot of looking into the kind of the deeper stuff in the like Tauren mythos about all of that. And I think almost most importantly, I think this, I know this is me kind of maybe getting ahead of myself a little bit, but if you think about what Steve Denuzer's history is as a writer, it's always been in lore stuff heavily. Yep. It was Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, which was possibly, had very, very clearly insanely deep amounts of lore. Not always executed exceptionally well, but it felt like a decent living world. You went up to the Fey folk and, being on the island of Ireland, just a little bit offended by how obvious it was.
They'll never get
the
us right.
The Tuatha De Danann and whatnot, but it was all clearly deep lore. So I think that from someone who has the eye on lore, if Steve's trying to go, or Steve and the entire creative team are trying to go, okay, well, how do we pull this back to Azeroth? How do we get out of this cosmic soup that people clearly don't like? I think their first instinct would be...
Brave to assume.
Yeah, I mean, it's brave to assume, but following the logic of if they wanted to do that, the first place they might want to go, they wouldn't go to the faction stories, because none of them seem to be political writers. None of them seem to be really heavy on the politics and the intrigue and stuff like that. As much as World of Warcraft always kind of felt a little bit more like that, and we enjoyed that. Personally, we love it. I think it's the mythos. It's the Tauren mythos. It's the Night Elf mythos. To be fair, you could say they've kind of shit all over the Night Elf mythos a little bit, but it's the idea of if they wanted to come back, they would come back to what stories can we tell in this mythological realm, in this lore realm of Azeroth, which is, a little bit more lore rather than story. But I think this is what I'm thinking there. You've got the Tauren mythos of Anshe. You've got Musha. You've got folk and fairy tales, which, they were clearly thinking about fairy tales of Azeroth when they wrote that. So maybe that's a hint at a general direction we'll see going forward. Maybe.
Could be.
Maybe. That's what I think. That's the entire vibe I get from all of this, which is a kind of, maybe they are trying to bring us home to Azeroth, but they won't do it in the way that we kind of think or want, which is to be character focused. Maybe they'll end up going a little bit, obviously they'll do character stories, obviously, but it'll be more that idea of, okay, what can we do with all of this cool stuff that was set up before? How can we recontextualize it possibly?
Yeah, pretty much. And then of course, but where the eyes of green. Just saying, what could this cat be up to?
Yep.
Nobody knows. So there you go. That's our next expansion, World of Warcraft, Cats versus Birds.
You heard it here first.
And we're not going to hear about Cats versus Birds at BlizzCon Line because it's now gone. I could have done a wordplay, but it would have been very embarrassing. BlizzCon is gone. They have decided to step back and pause the previous announced BlizzCon brackets line, close brackets event that was scheduled for February. But there still is going to be announcements for various different video games. Now, the thing is, it not happening at BlizzCon Online does mean that they have a little bit more flexibility. So, if Overwatch has got to wait a few weeks or months, whatever, they can do that. But basically, look, Blizzard, not the most great name right now.
Nope.
So if they can just have, a new thing from the World of Warcraft development team, then that you could see that looking a bit better. I mean, they even pulled that with Activision. When they sort of... They instead of, Activision featuring prominently in COD Vanguard, they had Call of Duty Presents.
Yeah. That said, that didn't last very long.
No, it didn't. Definitely. I mean, they pretty obviously got called out for it.
Yeah. There's actually one more thing on the topic of names that I haven't really researched or looked into. Obviously, people were memeing about, Activision Insight before and how some things have aligned. Some things clearly haven't aligned, like talking about 9.3 in that leak, but that we assume isn't happening. But the Activision Insight stuff of going, yeah, Blizzard's going to be renamed is all this kind of nutty rumor. But one thing actually kind of does spark a little bit of thought, but obviously it could just be business cleanup, which is the news that at the end of this year, any terms of service and user agreements with Battle.net and with Blizzard stuff is no longer with Blizzard Entertainment SAS. It's with Activision Blizzard. So they are pulling...
That's in the EU.
Yeah. So they are pulling some of that stuff away from Blizzard. Which is, it basically means very little as far as I can think or as far as I'm aware, but it's just, does sort of...
From what I understand, the office in France is gone. It is basically, I think its functions are being wrapped up into an existing wing of the overall organization. And I believe that change that people picked up on a few days ago, I saw it a lot on Twitter, is mostly just reflecting that.
Ah, I see.
So that's, from what I understand, that's what's going on. But yeah, for the BlizzCon, look, that's basically the deal. If there was going to be a BlizzCon, I think we probably could have expected probably a chunky enough Diablo showcase, assuming there's been no directional changes, and that Luis Barriga is of course going for reasons pertaining to the lawsuit, not pertaining to his tenure as director. So that's that for Diablo. I think for Overwatch 2, you probably would have seen quite a bit, maybe a beta date reveal. For World of Warcraft, it's really hard to say. And I ran out of words. I suppose I was right. Yeah, it is hard to say, isn't it? In my head, it's just that fucking thing. Is the next expansion going to be Q1 2023?
Yeah, Q1 2023.
Because if they cannot announce Q1 of 2022, have a beta shortly after the last 6 months, and then get an October-November release date, then World of Warcraft is delayed. And they're going to have to... They either have to cut content, get more efficient, and make up their pace that way, or they just need to shift the whole thing back and get back on track. So that's what's hard. Because if it's not a BlizzCon, I do believe they could get away with not doing an expansion announcement. Right? Because you would kind of expect a big X-Pack announcement from a BlizzCon, but if it's just a World of Warcraft update. Now, that said, if in around that February time, Blizzard are going to be doing a World of Warcraft-related reveal, what the hell could it be? Because I really have to expect we'll know a lot about and will have been testing on the PTR patch 9.2 by then. Surely.
So. You would hope so.
If not, we're doomed.
Yeah.
If not, we're doomed.
Yeah.
9 months of Korthia.
Oh,
it is looking at like that-ish.
Yeah, I don't even know what, because there's so much to consider. It's what could they do for Warcraft? I mean, obviously the lack of BlizzCon means they don't feel pressured into talking about any specific game, and they will be able to just take it at their own pace, but Warcraft is going to be very, very quiet, because you'd imagine they're likely going to line up, because what they've done quite intelligently, I think, is, you know, outside of having to or picking a fight with Endwalker in a way, the idea of early November patch, long wait until the actual, you know, Legion time walking's in, which is the content in the patch. I think that kind of, it implies to me that they're going to take somewhere in that spot to grab headlines and grab news about what 9.2 actually is. That's what I'm currently thinking. And then I think we just won't hear anything for quite some time after that.
So you're team 2023?
I'm...
Like, if it is 2023, even if the expansion's really good, people will have moved on. That's the problem with, you know, oh, it'll be done when it's done, in the context of an MMORPG. It's like, if the government goes away, the functions of state cease, nothing happens, people just wander away to a new kingdom and spend their time there.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, perfect balance and perfect polish and perfect everything is like the best thing for the game in a very, very, you know, blinkered sense. But if you have all of that, but your captive audience has left the pen, if a bunch of cats have came and eaten all the mice in Bobby's maze, oh no! The expansion could be really good, but then it would be so on the back foot. And that's what's really, really hard to puzzle through with all of this.
Yeah, well, I think because unless they have some miracle and they do have a load of work for 10.0 done and they can kind of go,
I hope so.
I really hope so. And they can go, hey, sorry about that. Shadowlands only lasted 2 years. Here's a Q4 release of 2022. I think that would be like, okay, we'll accept it.
2 years is normal.
Yeah, we'll be happy with that, especially if the beta looks good in mid 2022.
Just
But-
that. Oh wait, no, you.
Yeah, but it's a case of if they can't accomplish that, then I think they need to just say, sorry, player base, here's the nicest possible version of Shadowlands we can give you in 9.2 and 9.2.5. We'll just, you know, we'll just speed up all the events, make it go mental. Here's Wrath Classic, here's, Season of Mastery, but this time it's different or whatever else. And then they'll just have to go, we will bring 10.0 to you when we think it's good enough to earn you back. Not that they'll say that or think that possibly, but I think that's what they'll need to do. They can't just be World of Warcrafting their way around anymore.
No.
And I hope they've learned that.
They need to understand that they are being jujitsu'd the fuck out of.
Yeah.
Their weight and their clout is being used against them right now. And yeah, it's turning out to be a weakness.
Yeah.
God, man, it's rough. And there was somebody in chat mentioned, like, $180 a patch, what a deal!
Steal.
Maybe it's not exactly that, but Destiny 2 is not a game that people always said was like, it's weird. Destiny 2 is a good value proposition if you are there, just always doing your weekly stuff, just always doing your stuff, sort of riding the crest of the wave. So if you're an engaged Destiny player versus an engaged WoW player, and, for Destiny, you buy the version of the expansion that has the dungeons, and the season pass.
World.
That season pass is going to give you shit to do every 3 months, right?
Yeah.
I remember the time me and you got into Destiny. We played Season of the Drifter. We played the next season, I think, a bit of that as well.
Yeah.
And in those 2 seasons of time, we just had this big vibe of, oh, fucking hell, there's stuff going on here. I will have endless weekly bounties to do, and now I'm sleepy. But, like, we really did have that thing. Like, honestly, we were almost overwhelmed by the sheer amount of things we had to go and collect and do. But it was totally that thing of, like, if that was my game, I'd be really happy to pay the quantity of money they were asking for. I'd then be very angry at how transmog is handled in the game, in fairness. But from the perspective of, like, that season pass and what you get from that in terms of gameplay, I mean, Blizzard are... need I say any more, right? And that's the tricky thing. And I think that's why, they start dropping more store mounts and, they're trying to biz dev their way out of a game dev problem.
That's a brilliant way to put it.
Actually, is that not? Yeah, that's a lot of the recent stuff, biz deving out of a game dev problem.
I think that is basically their entire problem in a nutshell, at least as far as I can tell so far.
Yeah.
Well, that and also relying on their previous reputation, which was a game dev success. They're kind of riding a game dev success out and trying to bolster it with biz dev. But, you know, if you're trying to build a decent structure as you go, but the builders are a bit shit, then it'll all just fall apart.
Yeah. So the tower is very shaky, but they're putting lovely cladding on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Rough.
Good British cladding.
Oh dear. Oh, yeah. Maybe I should have chosen my words more carefully there. But yeah, it doesn't feel great when it's like we just get the trappings of them trying to achieve their goals, even when it doesn't achieve ours, and we just sort of end up feeling, you know, not particularly sort of well done by the whole thing.
Yeah, I think we're basically in an unprecedented time for Blizzard World of Warcraft scheduling. So we are for the first time in a long time basically flying completely blind. We're like, well, what's going to happen? I can't say.
Thorborg even mentioned, look at Grinding Gear Games. Their content releases, yeah. It's this really weird thing. Blizzard, is just not able to compete.
They can't.
And maybe that's why they're trying to do all of these more systemsy things, because they feel like they can just keep on doing those, but they're not fun.
Yeah.
I guess that's the weird thing. They're an MMORPG that's trying to compete with a bunch of ARPGs and looters and stuff, and they're just very different genres, and I wonder if it's just one genre it's just assaulting your brain harder, that people just wander over to it and get captured in the sort of brain psychology Venus flytrap that is loot games. Which, you know, WoW always obviously had loot and progression components, but you know, it was its thing. There was kind of a different layer to it as well. Very interesting, very interesting. So that's BlizzCon line. We're still going to get announcements. That's basically... That's the reason that.
Yep.
Speaking of delays and things, so unfortunately, as we all know, World of Warcraft Sylvanas, the epic definitive story of Sylvanas Windrunner, has been, of course, moved from February 22nd to March 29th. I guess presumably so that it comes out after 9.2 or something. Maybe. But originally slated for publication on October 19th, Exploring Azeroth Kalimdor has been delayed almost 2 months to December 2nd. So there you go. What could it be? The very innocent version of all of this is just, it's a real bastard to make a book right now. And just everything's getting delayed a bit. So that, you know, there is that. But then there's also the pretty real thing of if that book says it's the complete definitive Sylvanas story, I mean, we can obviously see how if that covered any things that are relating to our understanding of 9.2, you know, Blizzard might not want the patch to be undercut by a book.
Yeah.
Hard to know exactly, but there you go. Which is a pity, actually, because I'm looking forward to that book. The other Exploring Azeroth is really good. Well,
here's the big brain, right? Here's the big brain. We're going to have to go a little bit back to what we're talking about before, which is, obviously this would be, you know, this would now interact with 9.2 information that we maybe should have, or we're supposed to have in October, but now we'll have it before December 2nd. What could patch 9.2 or the future of World of Warcraft have to do with Kalimdor? Obviously, as Dakar points out in the document, we do have the possibility of Stillith's zone updates because that's important. But also, if we're just talking about Elune and talking about Anshe, so is there maybe something they will tell us about the Tauren myth, something they'll tell us about Bane, something they'll tell us about Elune that would be very, very important to keep track of in this book, but they haven't been able to tell us yet? Because maybe Zoval is Anshe after all. We learned that in 9.2's marketing, and that's reflected in this book.
And that's why the Reddit post hasn't been approved. It's a fucking conspiracy. We've done it.
I mean, we know the moderators of r/WoW have been a little bit aggressive recently, so maybe the Warcraft lore moderators are the same. Maybe.
By the way, we're just joking around.
Yes.
No. But you know, it's always fun to tinfoil hat. Anyway, yeah. So that's Exploring Kalimdor delayed. Right, next, the public test realm. We got the crazy ride of Binding Shot. Almost had the last of my usefulness destroyed. Not the case. Look, basically we made it so that it would break after damage.
Like most roots.
Yeah, it ended up being about 25k damage though, which meant that it just fucking blew up instantly. Like at an M+, it would last like a second and then it would be gone. Which, you know, I suppose could still give it some sort of weird like group interrupt-ish utility or something.
Well, it's a root, it doesn't interrupt.
Oh wait, frig, it's a root. I forgot about that change.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's
so,
kind of the point. The whole idea was that
how silly.
it didn't behave like a root despite being a root. So they went, well, we'll fix it. We'll make it do what like entangling roots does, which is break after damage. And everyone's like, this is terrible. What are you doing? And they went, oh shit, sorry about that. It's fixed now. Sorry, it's broken again because fixing it was the problem. So I think that's what happened, and it's interesting to see the kind of actual quick feedback loop.
Yeah,
for them going, hello, we have just thought we've made something technically correct, and everyone went, that's experientially bullshit. They went, fair point. Sorry about that.
Right move to make.
Yep.
Right move to make indeed. So, yeah, there you go. It's back to normal. No reason to panic.
Yep.
Also, PvP breakpoints updated. Now this is a funny little one. Basically means you need like a higher rank to get the full mog set. I believe. So yes, it's 150 more than the previously required 1800, which is a little bit more dramatic because, of course, there's a lot of boosting going on in rated PvP.
Yeah, buy more boosts if you want. Buy more tokens if you want this gear.
That's it.
God, I'm such a cynic.
Yeah, I mean, so they've made that change. I'm not really close enough to the PvP community to exactly know why.
Me neither.
So we should probably just move on then. WoW Classic Season of Mastery. Right, so it's week 4 of beta. Right, many groups of guard NPCs that were removed from Altaric Valley in patch 1.11 have been restored for Season of Mastery. The denizens of Blackrock Depths have grown more leery of criminal activity and now attempt to stash their most valuable items away if they suspect a thief is in their midst. Now, this is actually something made in response to rogues gold farming by just pickpocketing mobs. So if you pickpocket around 9 to 11 times, you get the thief debuff, and you'll just get pocket lint. That's basically that. Now, if you die, the debuff is removed. So, yeah, rogues basically can still make about 20 silver in 5 minutes of pickpocketing and ghost running. So, I guess they just wanted to turn that off, which probably made sense.
Yep, which goes some way to solve the tremendous problem that the economy has in all forms of the game with botting. So it's kind of interesting that this feels like almost an admission of not being able to sort it any other way. So they're just like, we can't sort it, but we can't deal with these bots, so we'll solve it on the game side. And I think that's I think it's a relatively intelligent thing.
Yeah.
But it will get people who like to make gold that way, which will feel kind of really bad for that small amount of players. And also the fact that the debuff can be removed with death is like, that's an oversight, and I really hope it gets fixed very quickly.
I imagine it will, because it's beta. So, yeah. Also adjustments to raid encounters for Molten Core and Onyxia's Lair. They've also changed the PvP honor system to accelerate the rate of ranking up. There's like a bit more details there, but I don't really think we need to get into it. No. So there you go. More stuff added. What is more important, though, is the overall context, which is that November 11th is when the Season of Mastery servers go live for name reservation. November 16th for actually playing it. And I just kind of wonder. I don't know. I wonder how many people are really interested.
It's really hard to say because this is what I think is interesting about their tactic of trying to go for the private server players with Season of Mastery kind of thing, where they're like, hey, here's the people who are most interested in Classic and have been throughout the time. I think that's an interesting move because if those people would be happy to play private servers for years and years until this point, then catering for them, but not catering for them quite as well as others are, kind of feels like they're showing up to a fight. They're showing up to a gunfight with some knives, effectively. That's what it feels like. I mean, a lot of these changes are good, and I think that they are trying to go for a very good Season of Mastery approach, and I think people will generally like it if they're into that, but it's just a case of would they not go somewhere that is a little bit more unique? I think that's my fear from the completely sort of, I guess, the realistic side of things. It's like, would they not be better served going the opposite way of the Season of Mastery and going for the season of take your time and enjoy the world? But I guess this is a test, and I'd love to see the numbers though.
I think this is a test, and this is probably the sort of test that's a bit easier to pull off.
Yeah.
Than some of the other things they could have done. So I think it could just be that.
Could certainly be.
The rest of their posts then, they just made note, of course, 9.1.5 comes out November 2nd. They talked about how bulk character transfers are coming, which I think we talked about in the most recent stream. Some timing things. And then there was also a blog post, a inside look at character creation UI redesign. That's nothing new. That's the one that came out with Shadowlands. But it's always nice to see blogs like that from the developers, so that's good. There then is the funny story where, a little bit of Twitter did go against Blizzard, I think for pretty good reason. So, of course, you remember those Torghast stories?
Yeah.
It sucked because you just did a generic enough Torghast run, and you met a character and you saved them, and maybe you get a cutscene, and you had to do all of that to unlock Twisting Corridors. Well, they removed all those requirements in patch 9.1, which was generally a very good move because it was very annoying. A lot of people really hated that with like alts and stuff. But they actually ended up removing all of the story from the game too. Which basically now means that, if you're not the sort of player who's living in Wowhead and stuff like that, you're just going to be like, why is Anduin evil? And with the Archon now, I'm confused whenever that happens. So, I mean, it's not fair to say it's like, imagine if the FF14 MSQ just skipped like 3 or 4 quests of key cutscenes, such you'd be completely confused because they are different games with different like goals at endgame. But in a world where Blizzard are so serious about their narrative, seemingly, does feel odd.
Yeah.
They kind of did it that way. Like there is the whole thing where, is it Janus says, oh, another Maw Walker saved them.
Yeah,
or
which
whatever.
completely destroys.
That destroys shit. Yeah. So basically, it's very messy, and it does just mean if you're coming here as a new player, like it's literally impossible to get the story from the game. That said, we all got that story from YouTube anyway, didn't we?
Yeah.
I watched the Wowheads repost of the cutscene. I'll admit it.
Yeah, the thing that irks me about it the most is that it seems like it just kind of happened, and they had no way to solve it. They just had to take the L of removing it to make the gameplay experience better, which really makes me think how rushed this expansion generally feels overall.
Yeah.
In how it's structured, where they clearly didn't, either they didn't because they just didn't, and they didn't do their job properly, be that because they were incapable, or more likely because they just had to go, get this thing ready. Oh shit, we need a delay. Oh shit, get it ready, go fast. It's just the case of like, how do you not think about the experience that all the average players are going to have when you're designing your story this way? And it feels like they were under severe amounts of duress in order to actually get this out this way with these, okay, we will concede and try to make this a better experience, but we can't do it without throwing a lot of the story of this in the bin. Yeah. It just feels so... It feels so messy. I struggle to find a better word for it other than just it's a messy solution to a messy problem.
I think ultimately we've got a news video coming out going through a lot of this tomorrow, but they shouldn't have tied like that key narrative to some of the most boring quests. Like just that. I think they really need to just chart an MSQ through the patches like FF14 does and just have that be their A plot. So they can just be confident that like they'll always have a solid, easy to follow A plot through all of their expansions and all of their content, because that's going to be way better for the average like user's experience and ability to grapple with the lore. And some people may say that's not important, but like Blizzard really does seem to take their lore quite seriously these days.
Yeah,
they really do. Whenever they talk about Zoval, it's like he is the most epic villain ever to be created. So, the only way people are going to feel that is if you actually tell the story in game and tell it well. And right now is like, man, they're just not set up. Then as is also pointed out, in Porter Gage here, like the Battle for Undercity,
Yeah.
Like, man, doing the battle for Undercity was so cool. So cool after Wrathgate. And for that to not be there,
Yeah.
it's odd. It's very odd.
It's one of those things where I think they get really wrong designing for the future. And I think like some of that might be due to inexperience at that point where they did just go, new thing, cool, let's go. But the fact that they had to throw it out, they really should have stopped and went, shit, hang on. What are we losing here? We should think about the principle of this and then maybe adjust what they're doing overall.
Yeah.
But I think it's just people didn't care at the time. People didn't mind. They're like, oh yeah, we've done that. We don't mind. Just
Even, the legendary quests.
yeah.
And that's like the legendary quests in some cases, like for those 2 expansions, they were a bit of your sort of MSQ.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Yeah, I absolutely like. I did it a couple times. I loved the Rathion stuff in Mists. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And now,
Gone.
yep, goodbye.
Bye. Yeah. And there's a way where they could have formed these into little campaigns and just made them be a thing you can do, but yeah. So they should definitely consider that for the future. I'm glad this is being brought up and that, this sort of thing is actually just being taken seriously by people,
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Look, that's the WoW news. We've done the WoW news. Not the largest amount. So next up, Bobby Kotick's big letter, the legal request being denied. We do have the full scoop over in our news channel, so we'll keep it simple here. Basically, Activision Blizzard requested to pause the DFH investigation that was over the alleged conflict of interest regarding 2 of the lawyers who were in that case for the DFEH, but that pause has been denied by the LA Superior Court. So none of that. Next, then, our key takeaways. The mandatory arbitration of sexual harassment, discrimination claims, and any retaliation pertaining to them is gone. That's good.
Bye.
It's just not all of the arbitration, say regular harassment, etc.
Yeah, it's the bare minimum they could get away with removing.
Yeah. They have got a new company-wide zero-tolerance harassment policy that also extends to retaliation, where basically stuff that would get you a written basically is just going to result in termination now. So they're being way more hardcore. Also, they want to increase the percentage of women and NB people in their workforce by 50%. If memory serves, that's from 23% to 33.5%. Right now, they're actually coasting in and around the industry average, but they seemingly want to, better the industry average there. And there's going to be 250 mil going into that, as well as another 250 mil, and that one's over 5 years. The other 250s over 10 years, and that's just for broadly supporting such things. Focus on pay equity and pay visibility, and then a commitment for regular status updates. Also, Bobby is now on the minimum salary he can legally be paid of 62 grand. He is asked to to receive no bonuses, no stock, none of that stuff. That's just what he's on. Now, obviously, he'll do fine because of his humongous accrued wealth already.
Yeah.
Even just the the dividend that is issued on the stock that he owns, that's going to be a lot of money. But that's what people want to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to ask for more because it's not like it would be reasonably fair to say, all right, Bobby, go and, what's the word they use? I can't remember, but, forego all of your earthly possessions and go up and be a monk in the temple. Go be the monk, whatever CEO monk could possibly exist. Go do that and get all your earthly possessions, hand them out to people. But I think it's the kind of thing where, $62,000 is, I think, people are going to look at that and say that seems quite a lot, but it is California. It is the minimum wage, not the minimum wage hourly, it's the minimum wage for salaried, which I think turns out a little bit higher than the average hourly minimum wage.
Oh, it's like double.
Yeah, so it's
I think it's like double working. It's near enough double working hourly full time.
Yeah. So it's a kind of thing where it'll do, I think. That's kind of it. Especially when he says, he wants to ensure every available resource is being used, so everything he gets is now going to be pumped into that stuff. So, there is a world where you kind of look and go at the 250 million over 5 years, like he's paying for that a little bit more technically out of pocket, but I think it's also hard for people to look at him and go, yeah. I think someone said in chat, it's time to get out the world's tiniest violin for him.
Yeah.
Kind of thing where it's a good gesture, but it's not going to materially affect him very much.
No, not at all. So that's basically the case here. There is more detail in the the full dive into it on the news channel. That's basically what you I think needs to know on the issue. It is universally good. However, it does not go far enough in numerous ways. So no doubt ABK employees will feel that there is somewhat of a victory here, but maybe they'll have a bit of trepidation that they've won this little battle, but maybe that's going to be at the cost of some of the further changes they would like to see at the company.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I can't remember who it was. It was someone, I can't remember if it was someone who was involved in a better ABK or if it was someone like Jason Schreier who would be like an outspoken bystander who would be, well, yeah, it's probably fair to call him a bystander even though he's involved journalistically. I think a lot of the sentiment was good. This is not a win. This is not the battle won. This is proof that being not unionized, but working together as people and trying to get your collective power does actually work.
Yeah.
So this shouldn't be like, all right, job's good, time to go back to work, time to go back to bed, but more that first step, you found footing, take another step. I think that's what a lot of the sentiment around it has been that, I think.
Yeah. Side bit of info. Earnings calls November 2nd.
So it is. That's couple days.
So, there's also that little angle too.
That'll be fun.
In terms of another thing, then, Vicarious Visions. Not going to be called that anymore.
Nope.
So, Vicarious Visions basically was merged into Blizzard. Vicarious Visions make great shit. They're very good. D2 Resurrected, of course, is them. Before that, though, Tony Hawk Pro Skater Remastered, which essentially was a perfect game, and numerous other very successful projects. They did a lot of good work in Destiny 2. They're a great studio. Their studio head, Jen O'Neill, is now actually co-leader of Blizzard. Vicarious Visions, though, are no longer going to have their name. There's some thoughts that basically they're going to lose their name as a part of the merger, and that Blizzard Albany could be a name for them. That's some speculation.
Yes.
So workers basically said they were only told Wednesday about the upcoming change, but they thought the writing was on the wall, so they weren't super surprised, though there was a bit of disappointment floating around. And it was actually also done like on a Halloween costume day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, odd. And it's just sad because they have had that name for 30 years.
and
it's not going to be that anymore, is it?
Yeah, it's like, I think that's where I come into this with a massive, massive question mark. Like, why? What does this serve? Like, why are you not kind of happy with going Vicarious Visions, a Blizzard Entertainment company? Like, I feel like trying to throw away their entire heritage, which is, I think, mostly speaking, a brilliant heritage.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to know who, who fought for this and who fought against it. Because I think I'd be disappointed with, my opinion. I mean, not that my opinion fucking matters, but I think I'd be disappointed in Jen O'Neill, who's worked there for a long time, if she didn't try to fight against this in some capacity.
There's probably nothing she can do about it.
Yeah, because I think, the name of the studio is so important. I mean, because if Insomniac were to change their name tomorrow, you wouldn't go. It's like an extra mental line you have to draw between them and all their fantastic extra work. I could see it if maybe Vicarious Visions were shit, but they're not. They are the opposite. They are fantastic.
Yeah.
And almost everything they've done has been at least good, if not great. So I don't know. I'd love to actually get a decent reasoning why, versus just we need the Blizzard name. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they'll be called Blizzard Albany. Maybe they'll just get a team name or something. It's sort of hard. But I guess, it has been a long time. I think the last sort of more official other Blizzard studio was Blizzard North. Back in the Diablo 2 days, and that's not a thing anymore, is it?
Yep.
So there you go. Vicarious Visions, name change, certainly could be a bit of a hit for the morale at that company. I could see a bit, though, where they'd want to change the name because, hey, we're all part of the Blizzard family. We don't want to foment a us and them situation across the different teams where, you don't want Blizzard Entertainment's Team 4 working on Diablo. I think it's Team 4. I forget who the Diablo team is. But, the Diablo team at Blizzard, they're like, oh, the Diablo team of Vicarious Visions. Different other, right? So you could see like a little bit of the management psychology there, I suppose. So there's that. Now then, we do have some fun news. There was a new ex-Blizzard Entertainment game startup called Notorious Studios that I've actually known about for ages before the announcement because yeah, so Chris Kalecki is the founder of said studio, and you know what? Basically, regarding community and stuff like that, he gets it. He wants all of that to be a major part of the studio, and as a part of that, he reached out to a bunch of us, and we're both doing game things. He's obviously doing it at a bigger scale than I am, but it was good to be able to just talk shop, hang out, chat about those things. I've seen some cool shit. Obviously, not going to be talking about anything. This is just covering that they finally went public. We'd originally planned to have Chris on the channel in and around this time. It's just honestly, our plans have been pure chaos. But it is really cool to see them finally do their announcement. What they're working on is really cool. You can glean what you will from what has been said publicly. I just say my reading this is, they are for what almost everybody in this chat probably thinks. They're kind of, you could say in a way our guys. I think they get it. I think they get it on the video games. So that's basically what's going on. Overall, their mission is to build games for your guild to play. They're in terms of things, they're going for a core fantasy. Core fantasy world. Will be very interesting to see how they build that up, how they do things. I'm definitely talking around things, but I mean, it's not like I know a massive amount either, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's just been fun, and a bunch of what Chris has been focusing on too. I've got a good reading list from him. Man's been doing a lot of work in basically business management, leadership, things like that. Just trying to skill up and get all of the knowledge of, how things can go wrong in an organization, how you ensure they don't go wrong. Just a decently shared library there. It's been fun to go over. Former systems and class designer on World of Warcraft of 13 years, designer of the Monk class, PvP talent system, war mode, a bunch of memorable spells, other things. The Shadow Priest revamp that everyone really liked that came in very late in the day. I believe that's one of the last things he worked on.
Yep.
So, generally speaking, real solid record. Cole Eastburn, senior visual development artist.
That's an artist.
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, that's someone people will recognize.
So you'll recognize, there's Cole's work.
Yeah.
So, damn, Chris got that guy. Yep. Right? Look at this shit. Man can do one of those pictures, I tell you. He certainly can. So, big artist. So, yep, Cole's on there. We've got Colin Volrath, who is a senior level designer on World of Warcraft. He built partially. The immense pressure and pleasure to build the layout and design for Borealis. So he worked. He worked in Borealis. I've opened up Google Chrome Help. That's some really cool stuff. More recently, the other side. You look at the other side, fuck, man, it's cool.
Gorgeous.
We've got Court Kiefer, a former gameplay engineer on World of Warcraft. Working on combat, I believe. We've got Doug Fraser, senior gameplay engineer on World of Warcraft. Their core gameplay is quite obviously a big focus for any companies making a new game. You got to get that shit right first. So it's good they have a team for that. We've got Eric Braddock as well, senior artist on World of Warcraft, and he's also done a whole bunch, a lot of stuff that you'll recognize. All these big BFA shots, that's all Eric work.
Yeah, and if you spot a pattern with these employees in terms of what games they've worked on before, let us know.
It might just be World of Warcraft. We've got Jason. Man, I don't want to mess up your surname. Kanagrata? You know what?
Kanagartnam?
That could
Kanagartnam or Kanagartnam?
Could be on the money. We've got Jason, former senior gameplay engineer on World of Warcraft. Spent his career working on core gameplay things like housing, spells, combat, and animation. Housing!
Where was it at?
Chris, you accidentally leaked player housing in your darn web zone. No, just joking. But yeah, look, man's working on a bunch of stuff, and he's focusing on building up the combat system. We've got Robert Moody, senior gameplay engineer and systems design, who was Yep, senior gameplay engineer at Blizzard, 16-year game developer building systems and gameplay for the likes of World of Warcraft and Diablo. We've got Alex Okonski, senior server engineer on Overwatch.
Didn't play World of Warcraft. Didn't work in World of Warcraft though.
Yeah, oh, wow. But, I mean, yeah, there you go, working in back-end stuff.
Yep.
So that's like your sort of initial core team, but they are currently hiring, so do expect, I suppose, that to grow over time.
Did Deco did include their chief morale officer.
Ah, yes, they also have got an office dog. Speaking of the office, I believe their new office is above Frost Giant.
Yes.
I know they were bunking in with Frost Giant for a while. Frost Giant's another one of the Blizzard, like, I was going to say spin out, no, the ex-Blizzard staff. It's like the Team 1 studio, basically.
Yeah, because they were the ones who were working on an RTS, I believe.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think, I didn't know that they were in any relation whatsoever until I saw, I think it was Frost Giant's tweet celebrating them said, something about our neighbors. I was like, all right, nice.
Yeah.
That's fortunate.
So for their values then, it's always fun things when you look into the values of some of the ex-Blizzard companies.
Yep.
Sometimes they feel a bit telling, but anyway. Think about what's best for the company and our games. Champion the mission. When the mission and your work don't align, it's your duty to sound the alarm. Yep, that is important. Eyes on the prize. You have a good clarity of purpose. That's a good rallying sort of banner for a company. Just focusing on the work, doing the work well. What's the experience? It's not about great code, great design, or great art. It's about great player experience. I mean, how often do you see lots of intricate things in games, intricate systems and stuff, and great art and all of this, but the player experience isn't up to snuff? I mean, if anything, that's been some of the awkwardness of some aspects of modern WoW, so it's always good to see that being here. So start with the player experience, work backwards to the gameplay. That is it. People first. Best ideas win. We strive to have a tough, open, candid conversations about what's best for the games and the studio. Absolutely. You can't be too precious with ideas. You've got to focus on what works. People, not process. When you optimize for efficiency, you lose flexibility and creativity. Instead of adhering to rigid pipelines and procedures, we believe magic comes from fostering an environment that nurtures imagination. So I think that's going to mean they're probably only going to big commit to something when the prototype is fucking banging.
Yeah.
Min-max everything. Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away.
I love that idea so much.
Yes. Bloat. Bloat is not good. More is, sometimes more is merrier. Quite often more is not merrier.
Yeah.
Less is more.
Yeah, I mean, that fits so beautifully into what's the experience for me. The one video game that I will absolutely always come back to for this, because the game would have been about 5,000 times better, and I think you know what I'm going to say. God of War. God of War would have been a substantially better game if, instead of adding all that gear system shit, they just went, we'll let the game's combat speak for itself, instead of having this varying difficulty based on gear score and level.
The first time I stopped playing that game, and actually haven't started again, was whenever I saw all the gear systems. I was like, I thought I was going to be like immersed and not have to bother about gear in another game. Okay, bye.
Yep.
And I know I really do need to go back to that game, because it is, by all accounts, an incredible game. So I will, but yeah, I didn't feel it was needed. But perhaps the people who have put a lot of time into that game can, disagree at the end game. I wouldn't know. Next, team first, then players. If we can't design a great studio, how can we design a great game? Our team is our first priority, because if the team isn't thriving, the player will never be served. And, I think that is quite obviously speaking to quite a lot of Blizzard's, current issues, right? Was it Marty O'Donnell saying, the developers of the Golden Goose, just feed the Golden Goose, treat him well, make it all be good, the game will come. And then the whole Activision thing was like the exec being like, yes, the Golden Goose, but I like foie gras.
What a story that was.
What a knob end, like.
Yeah. Wow.
So
I'll just clear one thing up. Donut says the producer of God of War is so brain dead he couldn't figure out how to shoot the ceiling in the new Metroid. That was David Jaffe. He was the producer of the old God of War games, not the new God of War.
Yeah.
I don't believe he has anything to do with any of that after
Don't believe so.
God of War and Twisted Metal, I believe. Also, if you're not familiar with that whole thing, that is exceedingly funny.
I'm not.
That basically a very, very big discussion over what constitutes good game design happened, and David Jaffe was the butt of a lot of jokes because he complained about a specific room being horrible game design and, you know, a shame on games and awful. And then everyone else who played it's like, no, this is good game design. This is a staple of Metroid games. Very easy to understand, extremely intuitive, and you've just been silly. That was
nice.
That was that. It was basically something where you shoot up at the ceiling. There are enemies on the ceiling and the other end of the ceiling. Shooting missing or killing the enemy and another shot going through opens like a secret thing, and it's really cool and interesting. And he didn't like it. He didn't like it at all.
There you go. Oh, bit awkward for him. In terms of money, then, you need money to actually make a game. So Galaxy Interactive are a financial backer. They're also funding Lightforge Studios, which is an ex-StarCraft and Diablo startup. Dark Horse has a pure interest in making RTS games. No, I think those are the ones that are a little bit more in the D&D angle. There's that sort of role-playing game angle. But anyway, there's also One-Up Ventures, who also fund Lightforge Games and Frost Giant Studios, another game dev comprised of ex-Blizzard people and, Frost Giant making RTSs, and also Riot Games.
Yep.
So there you go, pretty big baggers. That's what people are saying. I mean, hey, shout out from their basically their roomies, Frost Giant Studios. Of course, Candace Thomas, who worked in World of Warcraft for a decent period of time, was one of Chris's colleagues. Also, Chris Kalecki, is a longtime colleague, friend, and confidant of mine. I wish great things for him and his studio. I hope you do too. Grats on your big announcement. So lovely stuff. Then also from Brendan Mulligan, strategist and product investor at Riot Games. They have this insane player focus and ambition that is infectious and makes you excited for the future of games. Now, obviously, Brandon is going to be big upping that because Riot are investing. I will say in all of my chats with with Chris and like a little bit with some of them, they're very player and gameplay focused. Very, very player and gameplay focused. It really is the big focus for them. Then, of course, some threads from Colin. From Eric Braddock as well. So you can sort of go into those. Chris also had a thread up about just his own sort of story in that. Of course, there has been coverage, from around, as an example, VentureBeat. So you're getting picked up by the press. As for some of Chris's thoughts on Activision Blizzard, here's his statement. The challenges that Blizzard's had that have been unearthed in the last several months have been really troubling and hard to hear. It affects us as well, even though we've been out of Blizzard for a while. Yeah, like he left Blizzard, it's pretty much Shadowlands launch. It's like September, last September.
Yes, I remembered specifically because it was, I believe he was involved in the Path of Ascension.
Yes.
And then it's very clear that the Path of Ascension didn't really get finished.
Yeah, he was involved in that. And it's like, okay, so the Path of Ascension, when it's good, is like you were saying, like actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
but
good,
just never got finished and didn't get the love it needed.
Yeah.
And it's like this is one of the things that we'd been talking about. I mean, what. We were chatting anyway, and then all of this goes down, and these words do ring true. And if I did not think these words rang true, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be supporting them, right?
Yep.
So what's important is starting a culture and having no tolerance for harassment and things like that, and also being transparent and open. Extremely important. We're aspiring to do a flatter structure. None of us as leads or directors. Previously in our careers, we were all individual contributors. We were the ones who just build or code or make art or design things. We aspire to have that flatter culture where we don't have a rigid hierarchy. And, there's a lot to be said in more modern ways of doing project management. One of the things with Blizzard is very tenure, very hierarchical. I think it's pretty understandable then that a bunch of people coming from Blizzard getting a bit more freedom are going to want to move to the opposite of that. Now, you do have to be aware of some issues, some things that can prop up as you scale. I think this is far more, as long as the actual production side of it and, the task load and all of that is good, and, you know, you've kind of got the financial runway to be able to, you know, just kind of do those experiments and, you know, not need the sort of beating drum right now. But as you scale, you can get into Valve-like problems.
Yes.
You can have cliques forming and things like that, where, you know, yeah, there's no hard hierarchy, but there's a soft hierarchy, and you have to navigate the socials. But I think the difference there is, I mean, like, me and Chris literally are, in cases, reading the same books. So, you know, I know that these are things that he will be thinking of. But he does say, harassment usually comes from a subordinate, superior sort of relationship. And one of the things they're hoping is that a flatter structure can help to address some of those problems. It's a sort of thing, you can have behavior, basically be an emergent property of the systems at work. And indeed, when you have a very hierarchical structure. Especially when certain bad behaviors have not been sort of deemed clearly not okay by that hierarchy and have not been properly punished, then that really is a breeding ground for Blizzard-like things. I suppose you would hope then that, you know, there wouldn't be that as hard of a subordinate-superior sort of relationship, so that's one good thing. And I suppose another thing there is if it encourages more like, you know, I don't want to say like policing, that's a very strong word, but, you know, the group ensures the group is up to snuff. It's just, as always, the problem is, how do you carry that to scale? And again, because we literally have some of the same reading list on the Kindle and stuff, I mean, I know of one or two books that we've actually literally both read that are partially dealing with specifically that, how you transition from startup to scale and do so right, which is an extremely important thing, and it is one of the fundamental things that Blizzard Entertainment did not get right. So there you go. That's Notorious, a new studio that is founded by Chris Kalecki, who worked on a whole bunch of real cool shit in WoW. And if you look through the rest of the team, as we just did, a lot of real, top quality. So they're currently hiring. So I guess if you are a game dev with quite a resume, have at it, and maybe we'll see that team expand. Now, as with all things, of course, it takes a good while to make a game. So, you know, like with a lot of these companies, Frost Giant, Lightforged, just all the Dreamhaven sort of, group, don't expect anything super soon. Yeah. It takes a while. And one of the things these teams, I think, will generally be doing is, you know, they'll have their sort of concepts and their ideas. They're also probably in a situation where they have, like, an okay enough amount of funding that they can, you know, properly do their gameplay prototypes and find the fun. And, because, you know, if you look at the founding teams in almost all of these companies, they're not production teams. Yeah. You know, they are the teams to make, do the pre-production and the gameplay prototypes and to build out the Bibles and all of those things. So, you know, I think that's what they're doing. And there'll probably be some time in the next few years where we start to really see those just lots of job announcements and things.
Yep. It'll just be a little bit of a while.
Yeah, so there we go. There's that. I'm not exactly sure what me and Chris are going to do. We might have him on here some Friday, or we may do some sort of interview in the main channel or something. But either way, it'll be a good bit of fun.
Sounds good.
Final Fantasy 14.
Good game, I hear.
Pretty decent, yeah. I'm a few quests away from the end of 3.5.
Yep.
Fucking hell.
Yep. No, he is literally 2 quests away from the end of 3.56. So, in other words, 1 solo duty and then a lot of dialogue, and then you get to go to a new expansion entirely.
Can't wait. It's going to be, I don't know how I'm going to fit the friggin' time in, but I can't wait. Yeah. Oh, the patches of Heaven's Ward are so good.
They're great. They're fantastic.
Oh, they are so good. Okay, so in terms of things for today, the Endwalker special site has been updated with some details for the Island Sanctuary, the new data center travel system, the trust system, the new Imperium housing system, and some other things. And the media page has got some new CG artwork. So we have got new Disciples of the Hand and Land gear sets. And I mean, hey, it's just really cool. You've got a gear set for being a carpenter and a blacksmith and all that jazz, right? That's awesome. I really like the armor set. I really like the armor. Oh, the goldsmith set's really nice too.
It is. The Weaver's class.
Yeah. Oh shit. That's really like that's styling.
They're all just perfect for what they are.
They really are.
Especially the botanist and the fisher. The botanist one kind of terrifies me. Just Lala with the axe, bit scary.
Yeah.
And then the fisher. Sadly, the hat isn't quite the hat I've also linked below. But
yes. Oh man, that's so nice. And everyone tells me I've got to get into these professions. I haven't done so yet, but man, I really need to.
finish MSQ first.
Yep. Oh, I know. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Right. New description of systems. So a little bit more. Island Sanctuary. After a hard day's adventuring, come to your own personal paradise where you let your minions roam free while away the hours to your heart's content. Oh, it seems lovely.
Comfy.
Seems like the sort of cozy thing we all wish WoW had.
But remember, it's absolutely not to be compared to Animal Crossing whatsoever, despite it being heavily inspired by Animal Crossing, because that's too high an expectation.
Oh, sir.
And no one listened whatsoever and just went, oh, sweet, so Final Fantasy XIV is getting Animal Crossing. Thank you, Yoshi P. Fuck.
Yep. Oh, man. There's the data center travel system. This could be pretty big, actually. For the first time ever, adventurers will be able to visit worlds and other data centers and form parties and enter duties with friends.
Yep.
I mean, that's a really good thing. So we're all in Zodiac Light. Like, Katie is on, I forget what server, actually, but Chaos. So it's like, with this, oh, great. You know, that sort of thing. Maybe we've come to expect that sort of thing in World of Warcraft. It's great to see that's happening more in FF.
Yeah, so I believe the rollout of this is going to be limited. And I've not actually seen this myself, but I was told this. So if I'm wrong, I'm just the messenger. But apparently they're rolling it out to be region specific first, as a testing wave kind of thing first, and then they'll eventually let cross region stuff. But that should be nice enough. Should be nice enough.
Yeah.
I just definitely. In my experience, because I did play on NA for a decent while at the start of my experience, don't go and play a lot of video game with above 100 milliseconds. The game doesn't feel too good.
I think WoW generally does tolerate with ping better.
Better, not good, but
Not
better.
good, but
Yeah.
yeah. So there's that. Now that I have, I've finished the Dragon Song War.
Yep.
New housing district, Imperium. Oh, yes. Following the successful restoration of the firmament, a new housing district has been constructed in Ishgard. Its name evoking the zenith of the heavens, a realm of untold radiance. Oh, man.
Yep. And you, as the adventurer, are allowed to live there because you helped out.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you wouldn't be allowed in. It's for cool people.
Gonna need some gil.
Gonna need a lot of gil and
a
lot of luck. Or if you've watched Pint's recent video, you're going to need a lot of insanity.
Yeah. That said, RFC has got the best spot in Shirogane.
Yep.
I think we'll be keeping it. It's quite lovely, but
yeah, we will.
man, there is very nice. New trust ally. You know what? I'm going to call him spoiler, just in case, and hopefully your eyes didn't close your eyes in the past. Okay, next up, Lyrical Journey Stormblood. The Lyrical Journey series continues this week into Stormblood. I've already covered both Heaven's Ward and A Realm Reborn in weeks gone. It's speculated that after covering Shadowbringers next week, they will drop the full Endwalker song and lyrics the week after, which is exactly 1 week before early access.
Yep. It's very hard to understand why they would feasibly be doing this Lyrical Journey series without that in mind. The timing's too perfect, everything's too nice. But it is also really good because you just go through, you're like, I can see the weekly post of lyrics. I guess I'll go listen to that song again. You're like, oh, fuck, it's so good. It's so good. Like, I ended up listening to Revolutions today after seeing it. I'm just like, that song is so unbelievable. Like, never has a song sold me. I mean, obviously, Answers is also incredible. I love Answer to Pieces, and Dragon Song's fantastic. But there's something about Revolutions where it immediately communicates to me every feeling that is in all of Stormblood through just listening. Like, fuck's sake.
Cannot wait.
Fuck's sake.
So the next thing. Updates to prohibited activities and account penalty policy. Basically, this is them taking the big swipe at the party finder being used for boosting.
Among other things.
And I'm going to take my leave momentarily. So, yes. How about I zoom this out slightly more, and I should be back soon.
Yep, work away. Right. Hello. So, when we say in the title, FF14 has solved boosting, the apostrophes or the quotes were there for a reason, because they've definitely solved it, but they did it in an interesting way. One thing that I think is fantastic. So we'll kind of work through this immediately. Like the TLDR that Dagor's provided here is obviously there are further countermeasures against RMT. Using Party Finder to sell content for real money or gil or other items is completely prohibited. You are not allowed to sell clears for gil. You're not allowed. If you do that in the Party Finder, you will be banned. You'll be banned. You'll be set up for all of the account penalty policies that we'll get into a little bit. But it's interesting that they've also added reasons or cases that aren't violating it. So obviously you've got, selling duty clear for 1 million gil, not allowed. But I'm new. Can anyone help me clear duty? That's fine. You're allowed to ask for help. You're also allowed to ask, for help in exchange for money. So you're allowed to do that. And I see people in chat say, yes, the Party Finder is clean. It's clean on Cactuar. It's clean on Chaos. It never was too bad for us on Zodiark, but I haven't checked, but I'm expecting it'll be completely clean. But it's that idea where this one's really interesting because it is straight up just dealing with the actual problem. Because I saw a lot of people say, this isn't solving the problem at all. This is just, moving it. This is putting the onus onto the buyer as opposed to the seller. But if you think about everything that entails, then that's kind of the problem, or rather that's the solution. Because if you're a buyer, because think about who's going to buy a service. They're going to be someone who probably doesn't want to be very, very obvious that they've bought it, because you can't go around with, oh yeah, I've cleared all Savage, everything. I've got the full set. I've got all my extreme weapons. You're not going to feel too comfortable with everyone knowing that you've bought it, even though it can be obvious sometimes. So you're not going to go out of your way to say, hello everyone, I want boosted, please help me, I'm shit at the game, please help me. But if it's selling, then you can just kind of slide a little whisper in there, click the button, go, hey, is 5 million gil enough for this clear? And then it's all secretive. It's kind of the same way over in World of Warcraft that the boosting market and the boosting uptake has exploded, with it being so much more visible and so much better, better managed, better handled. I'm not entirely sure if this fully tracks across the world, but the whole thing about the black market is the more damage you can do to the black market, like the access to the black market, the further underground it goes, the better overall, because there'll be less things there. So yeah, it's a very different thing, asking for carries versus going to a place to get it solved. Now, obviously, it's not going to completely sort it out, but it's going to clean up the streets, basically, in a way that it would be great if World of Warcraft did that. But instead, they're kind of just going for we're not going to talk about it, right? But here it's a thing where this is a really intelligent move. I think overall, it's not going to really shit on everyone who wants to be carried, because if you want to be carried, you'll get carried. But now they've just made it so much more difficult and so much more embarrassing for that to happen, which is the real win.
Hello again.
Yeah, what do you think about this?
Yes, sometimes unfortunately when you have too much coffee and you're under a bunch of studio lights, you've recorded multiple videos in one day, you can just get real fucking lightheaded.
Yep, absolutely.
So yes, I'm back. I have the agua, yum yum, delicious. Yep. Right. Good and true. Basically, this is all great shit. Blizzard should just do this, and they should actually enforce it, because I'm fairly sure the TOS does not want you spamming LFG full of shit.
Yeah.
It's just that LFG is full of shit, so it may as well not be there. It's like, what is a TOS if it's not actively enforced, right?
I mean, it's the kind of thing of like, this isn't going to track as an analogy, but it's, people are selling unwanted things out on the streets, and the Square Enix place are, coming up and kicking them down the back alley, but like, nope, you're not allowed on the street, get away. So now people have to go down to the back alleys to get what they want, which is going to, discourage them. And I think it's smart. But
yeah.
And I think, so far at least, it seems to have done exactly what they wanted it to do by the reports of people saying their party finder's not completely clean. Like, there you go.
Wow.
Not that it was very bad in the first place, but it's certainly kind of grim seeing the first couple of entries be selling clears. You're like, no, that's illegal now, so get away.
Yeah,
It's great. It's great.
that's great stuff. So, anything else to cover with this story?
Yes. So,
Where to?
yeah, just scroll down to number 2 there.
Yes, here we go.
Yeah. So this is something that people got a little bit weirded out by, I think, which was, and I mean, obviously you go down, there'll be a little bit more, but about an update. But they also clarified, and I think this is incredible work from them, where they've clarified exactly what activity they want and not want. It's not left up to, like precedent set by a GM or anything like that. It is literally, here's a document. If you behave like this and get reported, you're done for. That's it. And a lot of that came down to people doing what you're just going to have happen in, I was going to say like Second Life kind of games where people live in these and there are communities in them, where people just stalk people. People would stalk people. They would show up. They would communicate badly. There'd be a lot of toxicity going on because, just disagreements where, hello, shitty Sprout tank. Could you pull more? I'm not going to stand here all day. I know I can heal you. Pull. And the tank's like, I don't feel very comfortable with pulling so much. I'm kind of new. I don't know my buttons. And then, that's the point where it's acceptable for that to be perfectly reasonable. Like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, grand. But if you then go, no, idiot, fucking pull, you're wasting my time, you asshole, then
You start acting like a Mythic Plus player.
yeah, so that's when you're going to be a problem. So they've clarified that. So they've clarified this stuff, and it's mostly that it's a clarification more than anything else. But then people obviously got very, 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 very concerned because it was very rough wording. Like, if you took it as here's the rules, here's the law, people were like, so I'm not allowed to have any feedback with my party anymore because if I get reported for that, that'll be me dead. And then they obviously clarified, because to use their words, following the update, there have been many lively discussions in the community. While we appreciate the interest shown by players, we've noticed instances where they were becoming overly worried as a result of hearsay or hearing only bits and pieces of the details. To this end, I'd like to follow up with clarification. And the clarification is more or less, we're going to investigate stuff. We're going to investigate when things go wrong. You're allowed to say things like, yo, tank, pull a bit more. And if they go, oh, yeah, sure, then that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
You're allowed to say that. It's just basically don't be an asshole about it. And you're clean. The GMs will look at it and go, nope, no problems there. Which is different to, what people have come to expect. Especially if you look at other toxic communities like World of Warcraft or League of Legends or Dota. And it's either it's either handled by a sort of GM person who thinks conflict in any form is a bannable offense, or where it's just automated and it's like a number of reports will get you got. So I think they just kind of went, yeah, okay. GMs will enforce rules intelligently, so please don't break them.
Yeah.
I think that's mostly the gist of it. As far as I'm concerned, anyway, that's the important stuff.
It seems to make sense, and I think there's also just the side of there's the toxicity inherent in a design, and the likes of Mythic Plus are just going to have more toxicity because if tank doesn't pull fast, then you get less rewards, and that can be awkward when it's a party finding setting. At least it's good that there's some more tags in the upcoming group finder in 915.
Yep.
To help with that, but still, and it's not just a WoW thing, because it's like that in LoL, it's like that in all the games. It's just certain game mechanics and reward systems can really, emphasize, make something that's always there just manifest itself a little bit larger. But overall, this is good. This is also just, such a great PR win.
Oh, it is
like
incredible.
While Blizzard are having some of their player base, discuss this issue, FF just comes in with I think a very popular solution. And once again, Blizzard are left feeling a little bit lumbering, sort of not super agile.
Yeah, it's mostly the case of communication as opposed to any major big updates on what people are thinking. Because as Amanda Hodgins says, I promise this is like a retread of the same concerns the last time that the people were expressing, where it is just, no, these rule changes aren't going to be blanket, everyone stop communicating kind of things. It's like, what was it David Nadler saying? it's not a stalking offense until you're asked to stop and continue doing it.
Yeah.
So it is a case of you're not going to get got for what is relatively innocent. The people will need to make clear that they don't like what you're doing, and then you go, okay, yeah, sorry. Sorry about that, and then, go. Basically, the way humans are supposed to communicate in terms of a respectful kind of society, which is, I'm doing something. Could you please stop? I don't like that. That's bothering me. And then go, okay, we can come to a resolution. Sweet. Jobs are good.
Yeah, absolutely. Good on them. Good on them showing a little bit of leadership, treating us well.
Yep.
So the next thing then is actually the store. So, yeah, funny wee thing. It's the store. So there's new Orchestron rolls if you want to buy those. There's also the don't skip the story. I think this is something you can maybe see people using there if they want an alt character.
Yeah.
Because that's what they want. But certainly your main, I would say, do not use these. Yeah, don't use them. It's like, I can certainly say this. As somebody who has played A Realm Reborn recently and also played, not Shadowbringers, not yet, but has played Heaven's Ward patch 2.4, like, don't go into Shadowbringers without playing through that content. And I'm sure there's other stuff that I haven't seen yet, but, I mean, yeah, right, look, that's just what I'll say in that one, for sure. So, yeah, now there's also the job boosts that are also half off. They'll get you up to 70, so, it's pretty quick. And I think, how much do they cost now, the job boosts? It's not that much.
I couldn't tell you.
We actually do not have it
He's
here.
not giving us the prices.
It's only a few. Yeah. It's like £9 or something.
Don't want to advertise those, not yet.
So yes, the job boosts are very cheap. I could see a lot of people using those. Now the thing is, you do miss out on getting the job story. You do the boost, but can you New Game Plus?
I'm pretty sure you can New Game Plus
it.
It
just
if
soups you up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see that being something that people would use in a guild setting if they wanted to try a new job for their static or something.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, that's actually an interesting thing. Is I would consider maybe not. Probably I would consider using this if not for the fact that Sage is going to be 70 at the Endwalker launch, because as it currently stands, the only healer I have is White Mage, but the other likely healer in our static is a White Mage main, and so I'm gonna have to end up leveling Sage in time for raid likely, because I'm not going to do that with Scholar because I don't like it very much so far. So it's a case where if they didn't do that, I would have to, but also if I didn't already have the groundwork of doing everything to 50, I'd be tempted to do it for Black Mage or Red Mage because I need the rule quest. But I've also now leveled, Gunbreaker. No, not Gunbreaker. The fuck, I got the tank name wrong. I've leveled Warrior and White Mage and Ninja and almost Samurai all to 80 in the past while. And now I need to get a mage up to finish the role quest before Shadowbringers.
I can see.
And I'm just
the swipe.
The swipe would be, the swipe would save me another couple of, basically another week or two of just doing my roulettes every day purely for XP, which is, I'm likely not going to do it because I'd rather just have the experience of playing the job, because that's, I guess I philosophically disagree with spending money to skip playing the game.
Yeah, I feel that way. It's I feel that way broadly as well, but then I remember back to, just... There's times where it's for the sake of, I really want to try Red Mage and see how it plays, and I want to know more classes and more MMOs. It's I can see the desire to do it, but I'm also so it's weird. It is what it is. It's kind of interesting overall. It is cheaper than WoW's similar offering, but it is also a more divided up thing.
Yeah.
But it's generally people think, well, I mean, WoW's gets away with its boost, I think.
Yeah, even though they're so much more expensive.
They're so expensive. But broadly, the store acceptance, I'm really just beginning to understand that the store acceptance is so much down to how content are people with the quality and quantity of the content that they're getting. If they are generally happy campers, they might not like something, but they're not going to get super pissed off about it. Whereas in WoW, it's they might not like something, and they don't have that much else to convince them not to, go be angry.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Especially, one thing that I think will be kind of minor is if you think about it in terms of the emotes or a long-term player, you have to remember that Final Fantasy XIV at its base price is cheaper than World of Warcraft.
Oh yeah, that too.
It's cheaper at base, and if you're a legacy player like me, I could basically buy a lunar whale with my savings almost every 12, 15 months, just because I'm saving so much money from being on legacy. It's like I could buy 4 emotes a year and be neutral versus not being legacy or versus playing World of Warcraft. So it's that kind of thing where that's one small part versus general happiness with the game and willingness to support. I just wish, and this is one thing that's really bugged me and I've not found it since, I've seen people talk for years now about how the Mog Station proceeds kind of have almost like a special agreement with the dev team that this money is like whatever they sell on Mog Station is guaranteed within the realms of Square Enix to go back to development resources, which isn't going to be the case for World of Warcraft a lot of the time.
Is that confirmed?
So that's the thing that annoys me. I've seen people say that. I 100% remember having seen that and confirmed it, found the post where it's confirmed, and then went, okay, I now believe that because I've seen the proof, but I've not been able to find that proof ever since. So I don't know if I've just imagined it or what's going on.
So
'cause I'd love to know if that was true. If anyone knows, please tell me. But
any Jamies in chat to pull that one up for us.
yeah, apparently there's a YouTube video of them saying it, and the EU data center was funded by Mog Station. Apparently, so yeah. So apparently, it's Yoshi P talked about it when the store was announced. Okay, I'll have to go and find that for 100% confirmation, because that's another big thing that is like, if that's in the collective consciousness of players, they know their money's going somewhere as opposed to Bobby's yacht.
Boss Rush says Koji himself says it.
Koji himself says it. Okay, that's cool. That's very good.
Interesting.
Yeah, I am.
Well, people are.
Yeah.
I mean, with Activision Blizzard, it just doesn't. It does not feel like that. And whether that is true or not, what matters is how your customers feel, and seemingly they have been able to get their customers to feel the good way instead of the bad way.
Yeah. Also, I forgot that this game didn't have EU servers for a while. It's so funny that it still has such a big EU base, despite it being a bad experience for EU players for I can't remember how long. Because I'm trying to remember. I know I played NA because I was joining friends who were North American, but I can't remember if it was also there was no EU servers at the time.
Wow.
I can't remember. There were EU servers, but they weren't on an EU data center. They were for European people, but you still had dumb 120, 150 milliseconds lag. So you just suffered massively.
Was that ARR period? Or
I want to say that was ARR and maybe Heavensward.
Wow.
Maybe I was Heavensward. Yeah, Heavensward is when the EU servers come out.
Interesting. I'd love to see a comparison between EU and NA because it seems like the queue issues in NA are so much larger than EU. Because like I keep on hearing all these NA people are like, oh my god, I'm on Asmongold's data center and now I can't play the game.
Yeah.
And that's been so different to our experience. Like I maximum get a queue of 30 or 50 and it dissipates in like 20 seconds. So I don't know, do we have any population numbers or is there any way to make sense of that?
I don't know. What I would posit as a reason for that, assuming, because I know it has a very big EU fan base.
Right.
I know that for sure. I don't know if there's a massive size difference. I'm sure the Lucky Bancho census maybe has split up across data centers, and that might be helpful, so I might take a look at that. But I think it's just I would imagine it's maybe just server sizes and capacities because they built the EU data center later, but I'm not sure. I see people. I see
like
people.
If it's a newer data center.
Yeah, I see people suggesting stuff, so I will go and take a look. Actually, right now, in fact,
Crystal data center.
Yep.
Oh, hasn't had very big queues.
Yeah, XIV.
Ether
census.
never big queues.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. You can just get status and statistics because they aren't ashamed of them.
Really?
Well, who'd have thought that? Christ. Yeah, so.
Interesting. So.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. America big.
You have extremely different numbers than I have.
What?
Yeah.
This is XIV census.
Yeah, I'm on the same website and I'm seeing World All Characters 16,000.
I think you may need a refresh there.
I did. Something's gone wrong here.
Well, this seems to be okay for me.
Yeah.
Refresh again.
Maybe it's Safari being weird.
So
but,
if I go to population, yeah, okay, so world, there's
just have completely different numbers.
5 million characters.
Must be
I
extremely-
suppose this is the thing too. There'll be a lot less alts. This is
Oh,
as of April 2020.
okay. So
What is going on?
you've got April 2020.
Yeah.
I've got statistics for February 2020. Cool. Cool. This is interesting.
Big confuse.
Yeah. Divide perhaps.
That's
Fi- Oh, hang on. Never mind. Oh, yep. I know what it was. I actually I clicked one of the links on Google. It was actually to a development branch of it, which is older. So
I
now I've
see.
got the same numbers. The confusion has been resolved.
Yeah, so I mean, there we go. Now, active characters, that is characters that have completed Shadowbringers MSQ 5.0. And this is also as of April
Yeah.
2020. So that's the end game sorts of characters. But the thing is, the game is a lot larger now.
Oh, America's just got double the European population. Sweet.
Yeah.
I could have sworn the European population of this game was a lot bigger than what this appears to say. That's
There
interesting.
we go.
I guess I was just completely mistaken. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, interesting.
Well,
Oh, here's some visualized from the 11th of April 2021.
yeah. Yeah, this is the one of the level 60 and above.
There's probably many things to go through here.
Yeah.
So where to start?
Hmm.
Oh boy.
You likely don't want a item level weapon 530 plus. So scroll on. Is there anything you don't want E12S mount ownership either?
E12S.
Did you? But they just didn't graph the big numbers.
Go to the census, but this might just be a bunch of data. Ah,
Yeah, that's the lucky.
it is Japanese,
Yep.
which I can't
Yeah, so
read.
I mean, there you go. That image in the middle.
Yes, see, I know these numbers. I don't know anything else. I mean, I can imagine what L80, LV80 is.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's level 80 people. That's what, 5.3 people?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, interesting. But I guess the tricky thing then is that the game has expanded
Yeah,
a
substantially
lot
since.
since that April.
Yeah, so that'll
So-
be. Yeah, I think the general numbers people are looking very much at. People are looking at the 2 point something to 3 million something number, generally speaking, but that is a very much where the actual source of that comes from is kind of like how many active characters are there, and then the free trial stuff's kind of wonky. So
Yeah, I want
it's
to.
impossible to know.
I
Basically,
want to see that in like March, next March.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of like when people. Well, it's like those Shadowbringers numbers. I would like to see that, when there's enough time for all of the sprouts, because I think the vast majority of the new wave of sprouts are not at
Yeah.
5.0 yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll have to see. But interesting. Maybe someday we will do a
I mean, well,
deep dive.
yeah, this is hard to say, but we do know that they have grown substantially quickly because we did have the numbers from the growth of
Yeah, we did.
registered accounts, which was 22 to 24 million, I think.
Yeah.
Something along those lines, yeah. Yeah, it's wild. Wild numbers.
Yeah, indeed.
Good on them.
Yeah, no, good on them indeed. And man, I mean, I know what I'm going to be doing.
Yep.
3.5.
Yeah.
Then Stormblood. Then Stormblood patch. Then Shadowbringers. Then Shadowbringers patch. And hopefully we'll be able to have a quick little breather. And that'll be time to jump into Endwalker. Because, man, I'm on the fucking train.
Yeah, choo-choo.
Oh, dear. But, right. I think it is time to, in fact, draw today's stream to a close. I know
Yes.
It's a little bit shorter than normal. It's a very busy week. We're working on a lot of things. And I also have got to go.
Yep.
So, zog,
Yeah.
zog,
But
etc.
before we go, Iron Scamp has just told me that Sakaguchi has finished 5.0 already. What an
Jesus, that
actual
man is
madman.
fast.
I believe he said recently that he straight up just has stopped sleeping to play the game. Not stop sleeping, but it's like he called it the kind of game you skip sleep to play.
Yeah, what a legend.
And I'm like, Sakaguchi, watch yourself, big man. You're getting on in here. It's like, look after yourself, and at this point, he lived like, I don't know, he lived all of his relics before before it's time for Endwalker.
Well, he'll need a diet of vegetables and snowboarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, he's some creature, but I guess that's...
If people don't know, by the way, that's like FF creator.
Yeah,
right?
that's Hironobu Sakaguchi, the original creator of the Final Fantasy series, and I believe he directed either most of or all games up until 10.
Wow.
I believe, which is, basically... Yeah. I'm just kind of thinking, how do you compare that in terms of like, how many entries should he have in the video games Hall of Fame? And I think it's basically one for most of the games so far. It's completely wild. Like, he said he got emotional too hearing Eternal Wind again. Yeah. Yeah. No. I was listening to bits of it at certain points for a video that's coming up, and honestly, I feel the same way. But I mean, obviously it would mean a lot more to him being, that first coming out of Uematsu back in I guess it would have been like 1989 he would have heard it first. And they managed to set up the entire thing for FF3 being one of the solid groundworks for the entire series going forward.
Wild. And actually on games, groundworks for things. We've got a video coming up soon. Cool. Very much like for Shadowbringers and Endwalker.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
It'll be a fun.
Yeah. Oh man. Please, I don't think Sakaguchi's streaming it or recording anything, is he? I don't know, because if he is, I would absolutely want to watch the 5.3 ending for that, because I feel like that man would basically sort of, I don't want to say he would just like cease existing, but he would like ascend. He would just be like, my work here is clearly done. Goodbye, everyone. Off he goes.
The shit I have heard about it. I mean, I know nothing. All I know is people's reactions. It's like people who I don't expect to have big emotional reactions to things are having them. So I don't know what's going on, but it could be pretty big.
Yeah. No, that'll be something else. Like, that'd be something else. But
yes, right. It is it's time for leaving. I've actually got a little bit of Halloweening to go and do this evening. Then back to my parents. I'll be like, hello, parents. Let's hang out. Also, I am going to be playing multiple hours of Final Fantasy XIV. So that's that. And then, man, we'll be into a real chunker for next week. We are going to have very tired throat. Mouse boxes, larynxes, whatever the hell you call them.
Yeah, there's just the whole area of noise.
Oh, assuming a lot of speaking.
Yep.
Oh, a lot of speaking indeed. God, I'm really sleepy.
Yep.
Don't get too little sleep and then do a big coffee. Be like Yoshi P. Stop doing that. Go snowboarding. Eat vegetables.
Yeah, I mean, let's just completely ignore the fact that he's definitely underslept himself into the abyss for the past decade.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how it goes.
Oh man. So yes, before I basically keel over, thank you for hanging out, everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for hanging out. We will be back at the same show next week. Hopefully some fun new things to talk about. And man, we've plenty of content on the way.
That we do. Something that I'm very, very excited and terrified about. So
oh hi. Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
So you'll see what that is soon. Great. All right. Good night, everyone. And
good night.
we'll catch you next time.